Good afternoon. Good afternoon here in Ho Chi Minh. Good morning for our European guests. In fact, we have today many people attending this webinar in Vietnam and in Europe as well. We are very happy to welcome you to our webinar organized today on the interior decor in Vietnam, an emerging and promising market. My name is Delphine Rousselet. I'm the director of the EVBN, an EU-funded project in Vietnam to support European companies in their efforts to develop their business in Vietnam. I will be today your moderator. Please let me introduce our today's speakers. We have a beautiful panel. Mr. Francesco Nguyen, Secretary General of HAWA, Handicraft and Wood Industry Association. Mr. Vasily Petrenko, Senior Consultant in Opinion Vietnam, Market and Social Research Agency, and Mr. Lejeune, Managing Director of Noor Interior Design. Ms. Nguyen, our Legal Consultant in EVBN, and myself, Delphine Rousselet. Each of our speakers will today make a brief presentation and give their insights about the Vietnamese market in interior decor, share their experiences. We will invite you to send your questions on the path, but we will gather them at the end after all the presentation, and we will have a Q&A session. After this webinar, you will all receive a survey, so we will kindly ask you to take just a few minutes to fill this survey, because this is very important to us to improve our services. So without further ado, I will leave the microphone to our first speaker, Mr. Francesco Nguyen, Secretary General of HAWA. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Actually, it's good afternoon because here is the afternoon already. So today I will share with you something about our association. HAWA is the Ho Chi Minh Handicraft and Wood Industry Association. In the next month, we will celebrate 25-year anniversary. Our association got 3 sections. It's the woodworking, furniture. We got the people for handicraft, and we also got the people from trading and service. Currently, we have now 350 company members. I think you all saw some product in the screen about the furniture and also handicraft, and we also our member also provide some service, machinery and some material related. For the furniture, the main market is the US and Europe, but all the picture you saw here is mainly for US market. It's the quite in the middle end, it's not so high end, and we also got handicraft. Something is quite traditional, but we also have some type of material is quite modern, like resin or fiberglass. And our association got 4 main tasks. First is the policy lobbying. We are representative for the member to deal with the government or even some foreigner, some country in they got some rule or some regulation also affect to our industry. We also have the member in trade in trade promotion. We organize the trade fair in March, international trade fair for export, mainly for export. And we also doing a lot of network or a lot of conference, a lot of support in the mission for our member to go overseas or even receive the delegation from other countries. Another task is we organize training for our member in to enhance the capacity of the member, and we also organize some competition, furniture competition or handicraft competition. I will introduce a little bit about the some activity I do with the trade mission. Last March we received 1 mission from EU Business Avenue. They are in home decor, handicraft, and they go to Singapore, and after that visit Vietnam, and we organize the business matching with them. We connect them with the people who can support them in trading in local markets, and we also guide them to visit the factory in Ho Chi Minh. Some people want to have some sourcing, to looking for some product. I think you already find out some information about Vietnam. We also give you some Vietnam economic outlook. I think the most important figure people looking for Vietnam is about the GDP, and it's not so impression that our GDP only $2,000 per person. But unfortunately, in Vietnam, we got the gap between the poor and the rich. It's not like other country. Here got also some people really got ability to buy some high-end product. And the most important thing is the increased rate of the GDP is quite stable. Every year is about 6%. About the retails, about the real estate is quite interesting that recent year. We got also crisis in last few years, but we coming back. And I presume that in the next coming year, the housing, the hotel and hospitality and even shopping will be got the very bright future. In Vietnam, we already got some brand from Europe, like we got Beau Concept, we got Casina, we got some Italian brand, even we got German brand, and some from North Europe. But of course, doing business in Vietnam is not so easy. Last few years, our association together with UNIDO and with the support from Italy government have the program. We are trying to invite the people from Italy and from Europe to go to Vietnam, and the strategy is the design in Europe, manufacture in Vietnam, and sell to Asia. But already 3 years, and the result is not like we expected. A lot of challenge when people come to Vietnam is the very potential, but if you just only walking around, cannot happen. You need to invest, really come and touch. And I think our association together with the EVBN can help you to go to the market. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Francesco Nguyen. Now we have Mr. Vasily Petrenko from Opinion Company.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit about the industry by itself in general. So, a brief introduction about Opinion. We're a company with Nordic roots, and we have our office in Ho Chi Minh for around 6 years already. Basically, what we do is we do full service market research with some digital edge on this, meaning we provide some online panels, consumer studies, and stuff like that. And a little bit about the background of the study that we did for EVBN. You may find this report that I will scratch on the surface today on their website, and it's available for free. So basically what we did a little bit of desk research, secondary data analysis, and in-depth interview with experts in the industry. So let's talk a little bit about key figures of Vietnam. Yes. So you may see that the population of Vietnam is quite big. It's 93 million so far. And the main cities like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, there is some mistake on that slide, so sorry for that. Ho Chi Minh, it should be 13 millions for sure, and Hanoi is around 7 millions. It's a young population and growing, so median age is around 29 years only. And growth rate is stated about 1.08 on the previous year. So I won't tell you more about GDP because you already heard that. So let's skip it and go down to interior decor sector in Vietnam by itself. So basically, just to give you some figures on that, there are around 3,900 manufacturers in the whole country and around 300,000 workers. The market consists mostly of small and privately owned companies, which accounts for 95%, while only 5% goes for mid-size and bigger companies. Surprisingly, 80% of all the products in the market are imported, and the big importers here, the biggest one players, are China, Thailand, Malaysia, and South Korea. Which is more surprised us is that not most, but quite a lot of wood and raw materials are widely imported as well. So it's stated around 1.2 billion US dollars spent in the previous year for that kind of import. The most value goes for sawn wood, MDF, particle board, plywood, and veneer. And surprisingly, that some woods is imported from Laos and Cambodia, which are neighboring countries here. Going to talking about consumption and consumer habits, that's what actually my company is focusing here on. I'd like to give you a brief introduction, a few figures as well. So, as you might know, already the annual disposable income is quite low for the vast majority of population of Vietnam here, and accounts for around 2.5 thousand to 5,000 US dollars a year for a household. The higher income earners are forecasted to grow by 28% by year 2020, which could be really promising for the market. And there was around 107 million consumer spending in the previous year, and it's forecasted to grow rapidly in the coming years as well. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the spending. On average, Vietnamese household spends around $300 per year for furniture and related products, which is not that big, but as I told before, there is potential for market growth. Some of prices for furniture you may see on those slides. Like, for example, low-end category of furniture will cost you starting from $10 per item only. Mid-range is accounted to be $20 or $200 per set of 10 items, while high-end furniture could cost you more than $100 per item, and it's not the limit because there are a lot of fuzzy, expensive decor and furniture in the market. Affluent consumers buy here for their villas, gardens, and stuff like that. Yeah. So what are the key values for consumer in Vietnam when it comes to decor and lifestyles? It's functional values. Meaning functionality is the key point for consumers when making their buying decision. So you may see that nearly half of Vietnamese consumers visit workshops instead of stores or showrooms in order to have custom-made furniture with cheaper price and that plays like functional role for their houses. Social values. What is important to mention here is that family values imply in-house dinner, family gatherings, as well as going out for local cafes and restaurants on a regular basis for Vietnamese, which makes the demand for furniture, interior, and decor products quite high. So renovating of apartments, villas, and houses here is quite common practice. Furniture consumption could be considered as a new pastime, especially for younger consumers here. Talking about aesthetic values, it's worth mentioning that younger families are mostly affected by modern and simple design, something which could be considered close to IKEA. We don't actually have an IKEA here in Vietnam, but we, for example, have UMA, which tend to be more IKEA style. while elder prefer arty, crafty, or fuzzy decor if they have sufficient amount of money for that. Yeah, and just a brief conclusion for the whole of presentation here. Let's talk a little bit about strength and weaknesses, opportunities and threats in the market. So, talking about strengths and opportunities. Definitely, as it was mentioned before, and as you may all know, Vietnam is a growing economy. Its political and social situation is quite stable these days, and consumers' income and spending are increasing year on year. Things that worth mentioning are flexible workforce with low wage. It should be lower than in China on average, but a little bit higher than in Laos and Cambodia, for example. There is possibility to own 100% foreign-owned company here in Vietnam, and real estate market is booming. And as a result of booming real estate market, there is a high demand for furniture, furnishing, and decoration. The other point is new generation tend to embrace new lifestyles and embrace more westernized tastes. Okay, but there are also a few gaps and threats in the whole market and in the industry, such as intense competition from Asian importers. As I stated before, it's around 80% of the whole market imported to the country. There are also some unwritten laws and practices in Vietnam, unfortunately pretty widespread these days as well. High corporate income taxes and social insurances fees as well. Legal issues with intellectual property and labor, which could be considered as intellectual property which is not that well protected in Vietnam, while labor is quite good protected here. I mean, if you have any issues with one of your employees, you will probably lose in the court. Shortage of raw materials, as it was mentioned before. Lack of qualified personnel, and I mean mostly managers here and marketing personnel for that kind of companies. Outdated equipment and processing machinery, which goes mostly for current players in the market. Embracing new lifestyles that shouldn't be on that slide, so sorry for that. Yep, and again, it's just a scratching on the surface, so you may definitely find much more information on the report, which is available on EVBN website for free. And there are much more opportunities with EVBN to do business and with Opinion Global to do research. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Poprasco. Now we have Mr. Luc Lejeune from Noor Interior Decor Design.
Good morning, Europe. Good afternoon, Vietnam. So my name is Luc Lejeune. I'm a French entrepreneur in Vietnam. I don't know if this is very relevant, but I was actually trained in law and political science and came to Vietnam about 25 years ago as a program officer for the United Nations in Hanoi in 1991. I stayed over. I worked as a commercial lawyer for 5 years, but then completely switched career around 1998. I had started a business in decoration and interior design in 96 already, which was pretty much a pioneering one because there was not much on the scene at that time. I created Noor, my company, in 2003, together with my British partner, David Hodkinson. The market was actually very challenging at that time because there was no such thing as a remunerated interior design service, meaning that either the architects would do that for the client for free in order to get the architect job, or the contractor would do it for the client for free in order to get the contract job. So when we came up with ideas of having to pay for doing a house or doing a bar, people really did not understand, but little by little we managed to go through. We today have a team of 30 people in Ho Chi Minh City, And we have our representative offices in Paris, Yangon, and Istanbul, which is not featured on the picture. Our main market is high-end commercial hospitality and residential, meaning mostly hotels, restaurants, spa, not much private houses. No offices, no retail. Just a quick overview on our projects. Obviously, our first projects were in Vietnam. We were very lucky because it was at a time where Vietnam and Indochine trend was very on at that time. So we got a hotel in Berlin, very visual. I mean, got a lot of exposure thanks to this hotel, and a restaurant in London. That put us on the international market. 2004, a very important milestone for us was a trip to the Middle East taken by a client there, and starting to work in that region. After that, we became an international company based in Vietnam, and we were commissioned very often and we are still commissioned for works overseas. Quickly, a villa complex in Mauritius. We did a resort in Maldives. We're doing a second one just now. We did 2 raffle hotels in Cambodia, a hotel in Kathmandu, in Nepal, a retreat for the royal family in Bhutan. We're working at the moment on a very beautiful old palace in Istanbul. So it's about 13 years almost that 12, 13 years that we had the company. It kind of paid because this year we got the Asian Hotel Design Award last March in Singapore for a project of which we're very proud. It's the Aqua Mekong. It's a luxury cruiser on the river Mekong. At the moment, we're quite busy working on projects all over the region. As an example, we're working on a Sheraton and a Hilton in Vietnam. All right, so talking about the market quickly, the way we see it, which is, I think, very narrow compared to what our colleagues said before, because it's very focused on our activity. As I said, the concept of paying for ID service is a very relatively new concept for individual clients, not for corporate, of course. To us, Vietnam is not yet a mature market, as in, you would say, a market in the West, or even Hong Kong, Singapore, or Thailand. People, of course, I mean, there have been a lot of evolutions in the last 5 years. Vietnam is, as everywhere in the world, is only obsessed by interior design in a way. I mean, especially with this young couple of the middle class, these working people. They want to live in the same way they see on TV, on internet, or in the magazines. This is not concerning us so much because, again, we don't do private residences. There is also some media support through some local news magazines like Noi Tat, King Chup, and Nha Đam. There's also a Elle Decoration Vietnam, which is quite random actually. Very nice, but we don't really know when it is published, and it's very difficult to find. Quickly about the market, basically the Vietnamese consumers, as in individual consumers, we've never seen really the average Vietnamese consumer splurging on expensive or spending a lot of money on an expensive decoration item, for instance, like a very expensive sofa. I mean, it's starting now, little by little, but it is not something like you would see like in Hong Kong even, or in Singapore, where a young couple would spend a lot of money just for the sofa, for instance. People here prefer to put the money into the construction and anything which has a useful value, like a very nice kitchen and a very nice bathroom, and also a sound system, which is also very important here. They can have like a home theater. It's very nice. Of course, this is not true for the big spenders. As somebody said before, there are more and more people with very high spending power, but this is still, to our eyes, very marginal. But these people do spend, and they would not be shy traveling abroad, going shopping in Paris, overseas, to bring stuff, because Vietnamese do believe very much still in the made, the made outside of Vietnam label. They don't really trust what is made in Vietnam, or they don't trust often what's coming from China and all these things, because they're afraid of copies or bad quality and all these things. Vietnamese are very, very quality conscious. In terms of design services and paying for an interior designer, only those wealthy clients do that. Of course, they use architects, they have to, but for licenses and everything. But for interior design, it really has to be somebody with consequent means. But this is not the norm. And very often, people prefer to use a local consultant. The cost issue is very important on the budget. Quickly about taste. We think that, and what we see is that the taste is rather conservative. Very rarely very edgy or design. I'm talking about private consumers. It's very different for restaurants, for hotels, but private people, it's still very status driven. People like to use a lot of wood, a little bit of gold looking, quite ostentatious, which doesn't mean that they use expensive items. The main reference are classic and European styles. I'm going to finish on the corporate projects, which are more our sector. For clients like hotels or restaurants or bars, it is much easier and now pretty much the norm to push contemporary design. And also very often there is a foreign management company which is involved. Very strangely, not strangely, but I mean, the north of the country around Hanoi is much more onto the classical style, whereas the south is much more on the contemporary style. So we still have clients in Hanoi who ask us to do like a hotel in Phuong, for instance, at the moment, which would look like the opera house in Paris. We find that a bit challenging, of course. In a project, and to build a project here in Vietnam, everything is available. We find absolutely everything. I mean, of course, stuff are imported, but it is quite, for us, difficult to source a selection of, like more for like touches and furniture and these kind of things, because we don't have access to this locally. We have to basically go through people with reps, I mean, foreign companies with representative. It is for us very difficult to source things out of factories who are producing for export, because they don't open their doors to the local market, which is very understandable. So we have to strangely rely on outside sourcing, whereas Vietnam is one of the first producers of furniture, but this is how it goes. So basically, our biggest resource is the regional fairs. We go to Singapore, Shanghai, Bangkok. Basically, those are more, and Guangzhou in a small, when we have the courage to go there, because it's so big. All right, I would finish by the challenges and also the opportunities. Again, as I said before, for us, the frustration there's a frustration to be restricted in our approach of finding something here. You know, when you are in a country like Singapore or in Europe, I mean, the suppliers are all there for you, and it's very, very easy. For us, we really have to make this extra mile. The advantage is that because we have so little available, we have to be much more imaginative with what we have. Talking about the retail, I mean, that has been said before, it's still very minimal, and it doesn't really affect projects. More and more foreign brands are represented in Vietnam, but prices are still quite high, and delivery time remains an issue. I'm talking about for projects again. And visiting showrooms is not really an option for us, because it's very, very short supply. I mean, the choice is very small, and we will end up with having what everybody else in the city has. As I said before, we use a lot of international products, I mean imported products. And if there is a local distributor, we would prefer to work with a local distributor. I mean, there's a matter of price, there's a matter also of how do you say, client service? I mean,
Loyalty?
sorry,
Loyal-
like after sales service for guarantees and stuff like this. For us also, we are trying not to import so many things from Europe. We prefer very much to source out of the region for, budget, of course, and also because tax-wise, it's much more interesting if you buy something from ASEAN. I hope I'm not mistaken, but the import duty is only 5%. About the opportunity, and to finish on a bright note, Vietnam it's an amazing country in development. I mean, I've not been here for 25 years for nothing. And you can feel, somebody said before that there has been a crisis, sure, but you can feel that there is a boom at the moment. There are so many new projects. We are almost every day being called for a new project in Vietnam. Hotels, boats, restaurants. I think the Vietnamese public is also very much refining its approach to design because of exposure. People travel very much more. People have access to internet, magazines and stuff. And Vietnamese have gone very quickly into a very kind of contemporary design, whereas it took a long time in China and Thailand, for instance, or even Singapore, to move from this very old kind of classical design. Vietnam is going quite fast for that. Finally, I would, to end up my presentation, I would say that project-wise, Vietnam is completely on the design map of the world today. There's been a couple of projects which opened, like the Intercon in Da Nang, the GHM project in Hoi An, the Nam Hai, which are fabulous projects and which count today in the design world. So that makes a very, very interesting playground for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lejeune. I will now just give you a brief insight about our event organized in October for those European companies willing to join this event. I will be quite brief, and then we will have a Q&A session. So if you would like to send us your question, please feel free. There is still a few minutes to do so. So our event in October will take place last week of October from the 27 to 30th of October, both in Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi. Just a few words about EVBN. We are a co-funded project inaugurated in 2013, co-funded by the European Union. Our objective is to, of course, support European companies to develop their business in Vietnam and to help them to find opportunities. We will try as much as possible to improve, of course, trade and investment environment for European companies. And just to mention that projects like EVBN are also present in other countries in ASEAN region, as you can see on the map now on your screen. So we have colleagues in almost all the countries in the region. So if you would like to be in contact with them, please feel free to contact us, of course. We would be happy to put you in contact. We have developed to support European companies in their development in Vietnam. We have implemented a series of services, activities, events. I will not detail everything now, it's not the right moment. You have a brief slide now on your screen, and you can find much more information on our website. Most of the information is provided free of charge. Reports about the Vietnamese market, reports about some activity sectors. We organize trade fairs and delegations to Vietnam, and this is what we are going to speak of now. So we have this lifestyle interior decor trade mission organized end of October. There is a mistake in the slide. It's not November, it's October. So 27 to 30th of October. Sectors targeted are, in general, home decor, furniture, indoor-outdoor, tableware, home appliances, lighting, interior textile, everything related to home decor. We will select 15 companies, 15 European companies from any of the 28 countries in Europe. The week will be shared in two different parts, one in Ho Chi Minh and the second part in Hanoi. Of course, the mission will focus mostly on B2B tailored meetings organized for each company. So each European company will have its own tailor-made agenda. Our prices, I will just detail a little bit later, include many things. So of course it's an action supported and subsidized by the European Union, so prices are lower than on the market. And we will include tailor-made B2B meetings. Accommodation is included as well for the 5 nights in 4- and 5-star hotels, both in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. The domestic flight from Ho Chi Minh to Hanoi, it's also included. The translation, so interpreter, each company will have its own interpreter for all the B2B meetings. Information session with experts sharing their experience on the market. Networking lunch, networking evening dinner also included. So the participation to this event is €1,890 per company for one person, taking into consideration that, of course, this is much lower than the real cost because as a new funded project, we will finance close to €1,500 per company. So you have on your screens now a little agenda of this week, Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, but it's basically what I just mentioned a few minutes ago. And you will have this presentation available on our website soon, and of course every information is detailed there. Just to give you an example of a trade mission we did on the same format, it was in January, this last January, on a different activity sector. It was food and beverages. So you have pictures now on your screens, the info session, the first day of the mission with experts explaining to the European companies how is the Vietnamese market, lawyers explaining what kind of contract you can sign with potential partners, what kind of requests you could have and what kind of requests they will ask you, these kind of things, to have the right questions when meeting your potential partners. And B2B sessions, you can see on the second photo of this slide an example of a B2B session. That one was in Hanoi, in the Sofitel Plaza. Each company had its table, and the Vietnamese partners were going from one table to the other according to their agenda. It was a great experience, and out of the 14 companies who participated to this event in January, 4 of them already signed contracts with potential partners, and others are still in negotiation. So it's proven now that coming to the country is much more effective than trying to do business from your home country. That's why we encourage you, of course, to join our mission. This is all for our presentation. We will now have a Q&A session for those who want to have to send us their question. So just let me check the questions we received. So we have one question, how open, willing are Vietnamese manufacturers to produce sample products and small amounts of trial products? Who want to take this? Mr. Francesco Nguyen.
I think it depends on the scale of the manufacturer. Normally, the smaller manufacturers, they will accept to make a sample. But of course, I think it depends on the relationship, due to the how your communication and how you convince them is up to you. But I think the Vietnamese, they are very welcome all of the sample.
I want to add also that in our experience, Vietnam is one of the only and last country in the world where you can have a level of craftsmanship which is nowhere else anymore, and very, very comparable to like 19th century master crafts, like very, very detailed work. Vietnamese are extremely talented with very detailed work, very high-end, precious works, and they love a challenge. So if you are clever enough and can come and basically challenge the person to say, are you sure you can do this for me? And you can have your sample made. I mean, in my experience, I mean, of course, not big companies, but I mean, you can, but you need to have the right contacts. I mean, you know, Vietnam is a country of contacts, and it's the Orient, so this is how it works.
Thank you. I have another question, maybe, well, for you two both again. How is the demand for HORECA market? You have mentioned a little bit, Luc. How is the demand for HORECA market? Is it growing, and where do you see it in the next couple of years, in the next 5 years? HORECA, hotel, restaurant, cafes.
Oh.
So resorts, hotels, etc. Do you see it growing, and how do you see it for the next 5 years, for example?
Well, I mean, as I said, in the last 6 months, we've seen a phenomenal growth. Actually, there are a lot of projects which were frozen, which came back, and that's about in the last year, and a lot of new stuff that we've never heard about.
Why did they come back?
They came back because of it was suspended because of the situation was a bit. I mean, there was kind of a crisis, and I think financing was a little bit an issue. All that was solved, and the project came back, and that was good. But there are we see a lot of new projects, a lot of people, and with very good projects. We've been doing a couple of cafes here, like there's a big trend at the moment, which is the roof terrace restaurants. We've been doing a couple of those. You know, and people put the money. People are very gung ho with the style, and with the you know, they want to be really on the map, like Bangkok and Singapore and Hong Kong, and it's very nice for us to work in this environment.
In Vietnam now is the management of a lot of hotel management by the foreign branch, like Accor. You see Accor, Sofitel, or Puma, even Iris. They got a hotel here. And you can see the competition between among them. So they are renovation, refurbishment,
all of them,
all the time. And I think it's the opportunity for us.
Thank you so much. Another question. In your experience, what are the best measures for continuous quality control without an own representation in Vietnam? Quality control without having its own representation in Vietnam.
I think this is the difficult. I think it's difficult. Normally, the people who buy in the stuff from Vietnam, they need to have some local sourcing guy. And in Vietnam, I saw a lot. I saw a lot of people who can work with even many representative, not only for one, but also for many buyers, and they work quite professional, quite international.
Yeah.
So you need to have some people, in local people to support you. Otherwise, you will. I think cannot guarantee for that one. But you better find some local people. Even you work with a big firm, you also need your own people here, and it's not cost so a lot. I think it's quite reasonable.
I think you can't save on the. I mean, any of this kind of activity, you will have to invest. I think, as Delphine was saying, the mission is very important because you need to come. It's impossible to do Vietnam out of your computer in your place without coming to here. Making, as I said, the relation is extremely important. But also, if you are a professional yourself, you will come to see the factory and you will understand, and you will see by yourself if it looks like a professional factory. So that's number one. Number two, you need to ask them very, very clearly what are their QS system, quality service and quality control. As Francesco said, it is crucial to have your own eye of Moscow. Sorry. to check everything for the production. Absolutely important. The packing is also a very often an issue, and the loading of the container is also a very big problem, because I'm not talking about loading the wrong stuff, because that's also an issue, but it's the way it's loaded and the way it travels and the damage. So all that, you have to have the insurance. And I think the personal, from time to time, kind of like surprise visit yourself to the factory, come to see what just before the thing is ready, so that you see by yourself what is going to be loaded in the container. I think that's very important, at least in the beginning, to set up the standard, because people will judge you on the way you are working, and they will adjust their performance to the way you are expecting.
Okay, one other question, maybe the last one. We received a question about how can we, I believe it's European companies, find reliable information about the interior decor market in Vietnam? Well, this is actually a very good question. Finding reliable information in Vietnam, I think it's always difficult, of course. We do our best every day. You can find already quite, not a lot, you can find some information on our website, a report on the lifestyle sector made a couple of months ago by Company Opinion, represented here by Vasily Petrenko. But maybe, Francesco, you have other sources of information for us?
I think this one also you need site visit also. In Vietnam, if you want to looking for some the new manufacturer, you should come to Vietnam to participate in the fair. We organize the fair in March, around 8 to 11 of March. So you can go together to Vietnam, or you can drop Singapore or Thailand, because they at the same time they also got a fair, and you also saw some Vietnamese company there also. The other thing is you can contact the association. We cannot guarantee 100%, but we can reference some name, and maybe a couple of names for you to select. And we also can introduce a network of the people who doing sourcing, QC. They got a network like that. And some people, maybe for individual, we can recommend. And of course, the trading is very complicated, but you need to ask some friends, and make some network. So day by day, your experience is your own experience.
Okay, so in fact we received another question, but you answered to the question, which was, is it possible to find a mentor who can help with the first steps in sourcing from Vietnam? Does such a network exist? So if I understand well, HAWA can support in this. The end of the question was, help with quality, packing, transports to the port, lead times, etc. I used such a network before in China, and it helped greatly at the start. Okay, so in fact you answered to the question. Okay, I'm just looking at time. It's already almost 50 minutes we are online. I'm going to stop now. Please don't forget to fill the survey you will receive on your mailbox. It's very, very short, but once again, it really helps us to improve our services. This was already our third webinar. We wish to organize many more, of course, in the future, but we need to have your insights and opinion. Thank you so much for attending today. We're going to close this session today. Thank you to our speakers for supporting us today. Thank you for sharing your experience and your information, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.